Hey, welcome to Connect. My name's Nathan and I'm the youth pastor of Icon Youth, which basically just means that I run Icon Youth, oversee all of Icon Youth, and this is going out to all of our locations. So we want to welcome you to Icon Youth in Derby, Chesterfield, Sheffield, Sutton, wherever you may be. And our theme for this month is about that life. I wonder if you asked yourself the question, what am I about? Or what I spend the most time doing, what the answer would be. Maybe you can ask that question after I've finished. But I got some friends who are about that movie life. They're about that movie life. They're about that cinema life. They've got themselves some unlimited cinema cards, which means they pay a monthly fee to then go and see as many movies as they want to. And so now, when I'm looking to go and watch a movie, because I don't have the free time to go and watch loads of movies or, spend the money on an unlimited card, but when I do have the opportunity to go and watch a movie, I'm asking them what they thought of the movie. Is it worth watching? One of the people who has one of these unlimited cards was bragging the other month about how much money they'd saved. And so they're sat there and they get an email from the company, and it tells them how much they saved. And so he says, Nathan, how much do you think I've saved on the cinema this year? And I'm like, I'm not really that bothered, mate. And he's like, no, Nathan, how much? And I said, okay, I'll have a guess, £300. And he went, shut up. And I went, don't tell me to shut up, I just gave you an answer. And he says, no, try again. I said, £500. He went, no. I went, well, I'm not really that bothered, so just tell me. And he said, over £1,000, to which my response was, you definitely don't have a girlfriend. He does now, so he'll definitely be saving less money. Anyway, that's a whole nother message. But I wonder what you're about, what you are about the most. There's this verse in Psalm 92 and verse 13. It says, for in God's house people will flourish. Those who are planted in the house of our God, they themselves will flourish. And I wonder if today we could recognize that what I'm about the most has a big impact on my life, has a huge impact on my life. That actually today that we would become people who are about the church, about the gathering, about turning up week in and week out. Because I really believe where you spend the most time is actually an indication of what you will become. So if you spend the most time and spend most of your time in your room watching Netflix, then that's what your future tends to look like. See, for me, I think I want to flourish in life. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to live in isolation, but I want to live in community with people around me, and I want to flourish. This word flourish simply means to live your best life. So let me translate that Bible verse into the Nathan Benger version, which is simply this. Those who keep turning up at church week in and week out, they will live their best life. It's that powerful. The church is that powerful that if I turn up, if I serve, if I get plugged in, if I come expectant, that actually if I truly plant myself, I don't just dip in and dip out and dip in and dip out, but if I truly plant myself, if I become about that life, about that church life, about that youth life, then there's gonna be something that takes place that I'm enabled to live my best life. That doesn't mean we're not going to face problems, but it means that actually we can live our best life through our problems, through the things we're facing, through exam season, through breakups with boyfriends and girlfriends and whatever it may be. We can live our best life. And so I want to encourage you today. We're going to have a discussion in your groups around the church, around youth, around the gathering, and what that means. What does it mean? What does the church look like? What does it mean to turn up, be about that life? You see, in my house, I grew up, I'm what's known in the church industry as a PK, a pastor's kid. And I grew up and we had this unwritten rule, which was basically this: when the doors of the church are open, we're there. Well, as a kid and as a teenager, we didn't have what you have today. Icon Youth wasn't about I definitely didn't look like this. Church it looked nothing like this. There was no LED screens. It was like a little screen with a projector, and we were like on PowerPoints or keynotes, though some people would want us to go back to that. Anyway, but that was it. And so, sometimes we didn't want to turn up. We didn't want to do it. But actually turning up and serving, even when I didn't feel like it, even when, I wanted to do something else, even when, there are moments where even our parents might say, hey, you don't have to go tonight. No, we're going to be about that life. I'm going to turn up. Why? Because there's a reward to it and something that comes out of it. And it's this, that we get to live our best life. When growing up, I used to hang around with many different groups of people, but at a certain point in my teenage life, I hung around with a group of lads who were into smoking. And it wasn't like your day today, whereas you had vape and you didn't have to do the deodorant and all of that. But there was all the deodorant, all the different jumpers, all of that. It was like a total mission to be able to smoke and not get caught. But I remember hanging around with them, and I'd hung around with them so much that I thought, oh, maybe smoking's for me. Maybe I could be about that life, and maybe my friends would accept me more if I did that. And so there I was, I don't know, 13, 14 years of age, and I said to one of my friends, I think I want to try and smoke. Maybe I want to try this. And this was at end of school on a Friday, and he simply pulled out a cigarette out of his pocket, gave it me, and said, try that over the weekend. And so there I went. I hid it away in my bag and went home. As soon as I got home, Mum asked me to go to the garage to get bread and milk. She did that on a regular occurrence. And so I thought, this is my opportunity. And so I said, yeah, I just need to get something from upstairs. So I went and got the cigarette. I put it in my pocket, and there off I went to the garage. And I bought bread and milk, and I bought some matches to light the cigarette. Well, there I was behind the garage with this cigarette in my mouth with the matches. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. And so there I was. I lit the match. I puffed in the cigarette and then choked, literally choked. That was a poor rendition of what happened. I thought I was going to spew, actually. But then I went again and did exactly the same, threw the cigarette on the floor, stamped it out. I was like, no, that life is not for me. I went home and literally dumped the bread and the milk in the kitchen, ran upstairs, sprayed myself with deodorant, changed my top, did all of that, hid the matches in my drawer, and then said, Mum, I'm going out to play football. I got back in from playing football, and Mum's sat there at the dining room table with the matches saying, what are these all about, Nathan? And then she pulls my jumper out and says, this smells of smoke. You're grounded. And I'm like, yeah, but no, Mum, no. And when you start to cry, but you can't talk when you're crying, well, that begins to happen and all of that. And then something pops into my head. Oh, it's youth tonight. If I'm grounded, I can't go to youth. And so I said, oh, so that means I'm not going to youth or church? She went, no, you go to youth and you go to church, because we're about that. We're about that life. Why? Because there's a benefit to that. I missed out on loads of other stuff. I think I got my games console took off me. But do you know what? My mum and dad, you're not missing out on youth and church. Why? Because there's huge benefits to it. And that's what we're called to do. And so I want to encourage you today to be part of that life. Turn up at church every single week. Turn up at youth every single week. Bring friends with you. Bring stuff to take notes with. Be about that life. Why? Because I think God will reward it, and you'll see God work in incredible ways. And let me just speak to you if this is maybe your first time at Icon Youth, or maybe you've only been around for a few weeks. This is a place where you can belong, and let me encourage you to keep turning up. Why? Because the atmosphere is life-changing, and something will begin to spark. But maybe you got questions about your faith. The best thing you can do is keep turning up. Keep turning up, because many people's stories are they belonged before they believed. But even if you don't believe, you belong here. And so Icon Youth, let's be about that life. Let's be about that youth life and about that church life. And let's be about planting ourselves in that. So your Connect leader is going to have a whole list of Bible verses around the church and what it means to be part of the church. And you're going to do that. But let me start your conversation and begin your conversation around your group with, what are you about? What is your favorite hobby? What do you spend the most time on? Have some fun. I'll see you soon.